Hi, welcome back to Burning River Bushcraft. Today we're going to be carving a promontory peg deadfall trap. So the promontory peg is a fairly simple trap. It's just it's a 2-stick trigger. This is a pretty random stick here. I think I used this the other day, a piece of this. I'm going to go ahead and just give myself a clean cut on this side. There we go. And I'm using the same deadfall weight that I have been in previous videos. So I'm going to go ahead and make it about as wide as my fist. I'll make this a little bit long, and I will probably make another cut right here by my thumb. So I'm doing this entire trap today using just the Lagome bush tool. I did a review on it on my channel. If you're interested in seeing the full review on this knife, go ahead and check it out. And I'm actually debarking this just so it shows up better on camera. It's pretty dark today, pretty cloudy. And in some of the other videos, as I was editing them, I saw that the trap components weren't that clear. So if this was an actual set trap, I would not want this white trigger like this. I would probably leave the bark on personally, like I have been doing. Or in worst case scenario, I would roll it around in the mud or something to get it nice and dark. So I'm going to go ahead, and these two batoned ends, I'm going to go ahead and just round them off with the. So one end of this trap is going to be under the ground. The other end is going to be holding up the deadfall. So I don't really want to point on either one of them. I don't want anything that's going to catch or hold up the deadfall weight. So at this point, about 1/3 of the trap, right about here, I'm going to get a baton in a little bit less than halfway. So about like that. All right, so now with this cut now, I'm going to roll it so this cuts on the bottom on this end. So I'm going to go to the opposite end. I'm going to go in about 1/3 again and make another plunge cut, or just baton it in like I'm going to do. All right, so here's a good example. Knife is on top, and when I roll this over, here's my last baton mark right here. So I've used other splits in the past. The Siberian deadfall trap was a split trigger. So to get this 2/2 split, sometimes you can just crack them. I'm going to use the knife and just accelerate that chip. Sometimes it cracks for me. This one's not helping me out much today. This is a little bit bigger stick, a little bit greener stick. I'm going to go ahead and pierce the point into the line I want the knife to crack, or that I want the stick to crack, and just give a nice couple taps and see if it doesn't crack for me. All right, so I want this crack right along this edge. I'm going to go ahead and sink the point in and just give it a couple light taps. It's not quite splitting like I want it to. I'm going to baton a little bit deeper notches. So it's starting to split right along the line like I want it to. Just to be sure, I'm going to go over to the opposite end and let the two splits meet each other. And there we go. There's our split stick. That'll go back together. If you got too aggressive with this, it's just going to run off. Here was a bad split right here. It was starting to run a little bit, so that's why I reversed directions. All right, so right here you can see where I've still got wood fibers. I'm just going to plunge cut, get rid of all those fibers, and just clean up the edge. I'm not really getting into the meat of the wood. I'm just trimming off anything that sticks out. I'm also, since this is in my hand, I'm going to go ahead and take this edge off. All right, so this is the other stick, and same thing. I've got just pieces here where it wasn't a clean break. And I'm going to go straight up. Now about like that. So we can see this trigger does go back together again, and it doesn't want to stay, obviously. But this is going to be a 2-stick trap, so there's going to be no piece holding this together. So the bait is actually going to be on this bottom piece. Now I'm deciding that by looking at them. This is the thicker piece, so I'm going to put this on the bottom. Now this outside edge right here, I am not going to touch. I want this to curve out and make a point. So to get that accomplished, I am not going to carve anything here, and I'm going to remove wood only from the inside plane. All right, so I'm heading up this way. This backside is untouched, but I'm still full width. So I'm going to go ahead and give this somewhat of a point, just a bait. Kind of like that. Now that that's established, I'll finish the top of it by curving it out as much as possible with the sweep of the knife blade. So this is the basis of the Promotory peg. It's going to be sitting similar to this, and then the bait's actually going to be wedged in here. The bait is going to be on the point. This is actually going to be resting on the bait, and then as soon as this part is touched, it's going to break the trigger. All right, so to set the Promotory peg, the peg is going to be on the bottom, and the peg, the sharpened peg, is going to be on the inside of the trap itself. So it's going to be sitting kind of like this. It's just a balancing act, trying to get this to set, but want to and have a tendency to pop open. So at this point, I'm really just doing micro adjustments. I'm getting the thing, you know, it'll stay like this, but this will not trigger. So a little bit at a time. There we go. Almost. Okay, there's the set trap. So here is the detail of the trap itself. You see that point where I would have the bait, and this is just kind of balanced. This is kind of a finicky trap. It's not that sensitive. It's not one of my favorites. So the Promotory peg is not one of my go-to triggers. It's just not something I use that much. It's not that sensitive. And one of the biggest downfalls to it is the animal is not really under the trap that much. You can set this a little deeper in the trap than what I'm doing, to be honest, but either way, you're not really luring the animal to the back of the trap. It's kind of going to be right on the edge of it where it has a ample chance to get away. And as far as setting it, it's a little more of a balancing act. You see, I'm just kind of hopping this thing around until I find a happy spot. This trap can also lead to self-confidence issues. I guess it would be overconfidence issues, because if you're setting it easy, there we go. It just means that it's not going to fire when a small animal gets under there. And again, I could have this deeper, but I have better leverage having it back against the outside of the deadfall weight. Back in here would probably be a little bit better. So the promontory peg is an easy trap to carve. Again, if you want to see the full review on this Lagome bush knife, go ahead and follow the link in the description. Head over and check out my review of this knife. Any knife will carve this. This is a very, very simple trap to carve. The splits on these sticks didn't go perfect. It required a little bit of finesse, but sometimes you can just score it and snap it. It all depends on your material that you're working with. So with any primitive trap, it's just all about practice. Practice carving them, practice setting them, and you'll get better over time. So just get a sharp tool, get some sticks, and get setting them. Till next time, this has been Jamie Boggs with Burning River Bushcraft. See you soon. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click like, click subscribe, ring the bell to be notified on my latest videos.